Welcome to another edition of Swim Easy Speed. My name is Tim Floyd. I am a longtime swim coach and triathlon coach. And today we're going to look at the difference between a core-driven or a shoulder-driven stroke, a hip-driven stroke, or a core-driven stroke. And just, there's a lot of different points of view on it, and there's a lot of different pros and cons of all of them. And we're going to just kind of quickly dive into those, and so you maybe have a better idea what you should do. So here's some just quick examples of shoulder and hip-driven strokes and core-driven strokes. So the first one we're going to look at is Janet Evans. So this is a video from the '88 Olympics, 400-meter free. And you can see, she's got a very shoulder-driven stroke, high tempo. Her tempo is 1.2 seconds to complete each stroke cycle. So really, really high. You're looking at, 100 strokes a minute, something like that. Maybe a little bit more. And, you can see that her really hips aren't involved that much. It's just very much kind of all driven by her shoulders and that turnover. And, both of these at the time in 1988, this was a fairly unorthodox kind of stroke, this windmill style stroke. Some of the, the benefits of it are, it's a little bit easier to learn, kind of starting out. You don't have to coordinate as much of the body. So for, kind of beginning triathletes, it's a bit appealing, to do. The couple downsides to it are this is, a shoulder-driven stroke carries a higher risk of injuring the shoulders. And this can happen just because for you not to injure your shoulders, because you're putting all of the load of the stroke on your shoulders. You're not spreading it out to your entire body. So the stroke has to be very precise, and then you've had to have trained with that stroke for a very long time so that the stroke is precise, and then you have all the musculature, everything to support it. And then if you're looking to kind of use that stroke in a race, you're going to need to train a lot more to be able to carry that kind of tempo in a race. Because remember, the basic kind of premise of how fast or slow you go in the water is distance per stroke plus your turnover rate, so plus your tempo. So if you get X amount of distance per stroke and then put a higher tempo on it and have a tempo on it, and then you're going to go a certain speed. If you can keep that same distance per stroke and put a higher tempo on it, you're going to go faster. So that's kind of the basics behind that idea. But the big thing is that you've got a more likely risk of injury, and then more training to kind of do it. For a or a hip-driven stroke or core-driven stroke, they're both kind of similar. And for this next one, we're going to go to Usama Mululi. This was from the 10K in the London Olympics. And he's actually in the first place spot right there. He was a pool distance swimmer. So you can see right there, his tempo's, a lot slower than the previous video. His tempo was about 1.7 here. The athlete that's right behind him in the white cap is Thomas Lurtz, who was kind of the perennial 10K, 25K world champ leading into the London Olympics, and he has a much higher tempo. His is closer to Janet Evans, so 1.2. And what you see is, he's really, Mululi is really pulling away from the German. And so one of the kind of some of the benefits of that kind of hip-driven, core-driven stroke is that you've got the whole body connected, the whole body working to pull through the water. It's not just the shoulders that are driving that stroke. So there's a lot more kind of coordination. Now, the difference between the hip and the core are fairly subtle. So it's where you're placing your attention in terms of driving it. Now, the argument I would make is that it's much better to have that core-driven stroke, especially when you get the transverse abdominis involved, where all of that neuromuscular coordination is going to occur, or it's going to help with that neuromuscular coordination to make a much more efficient stroke. And then because you're spreading the load of that stroke over your entire body, not just focused on your shoulders, you're less likely to get an injury there. Now, some of the downsides are that, it can take a little bit longer to get the power and the strength that you need to really do that stroke effectively. But I pretty much train that exclusively with the team I coach, and everyone seems to do really well on it. And we have, next to no one on the team. I don't think we've ever really had anyone injure their shoulders on the team from this kind of approach. So I hope this helps. And if, as always, if you guys have any questions, I'm always happy to answer them. But yeah, like, share, and comment. You can find us swimeasyspeed.com, and Instagram is @swimeasyspeed.